Here we go.
Between 2015 and 2018, there were 650 accidents on PCH, and 17 of them were fatal. The question I want to talk to you about today is why are they happening and what can be done to prevent them. As Pepperdine students, as members of the Malibu community now, I think it's really important we all think about safety, and not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. So I think it's very important that we talk about this today. Some of the things we're going to be talking about today is what these numbers say about 650 and where they're coming from and why it matters to us as people. So a couple of recent events that have happened regarding accidents on PCH. So Eric Berg was a 39-year-old man who was walking across the street or PCH and was hit by a car and killed. And then there was also a pedestrian at the chili kickoff a couple months ago that was hit by the country club while crossing the street. To tell you a little bit about how much this actually affects our community, I want to tell you about a personal story of mine and spend a little bit of time talking about how close this actually is and how real this could be for someone. So one night I was coming back from dinner with a friend, probably about 8 p.m. and he was driving the car and I was in the passenger seat and I was scrolling through Instagram. And he was going about 50 miles an hour and a guy came on a skateboard and just rammed into his car. And so he kind of freaked out. I pulled over to the side of the road. Um, I heard a bang at first and I thought it was like a tire popping. So I looked back at the car to see if there was a tire on the road, and I looked forward and saw his windshield on the driver's side was just completely cracked like crazy, and there was kind of blood on it and stuff. Um, so then we pulled over and got out of the car, and I called the cops and ran across PCH without looking. That probably wasn't good either. I just ran across because this guy was lying down the middle of the road, just bleeding like crazy. And I was on the phone with the cops, and then I got a Ralph's paper bag from his car, and I was holding this guy and trying to get him to stop bleeding. And I was yelling at him. I was like, "Hey, what's your name? Where are you from?" And he was just couldn't talk to me. He was just gasping for air, every 3 seconds, literally just seeing God. So that was really difficult. The cops eventually came pretty quickly, and there wasn't the guy was gone. Um, there's nothing they could do. The ambulance came and tried to do everything they could and just put the sheet over him after a minute. And they just knew he was dead. And it was really tough. That was the beginning of the semester. So I missed the class for Common Lady the next day. So that's why I wasn't here one time. And it took me a while to want to share that with people. This is actually the first one I'm sharing it with outside people that are the most close for me. So sorry if I'm a little bit all over the place. So continuing a little bit, the cops came. They had to do the thing. They had to make sure my friend wasn't drunk or anything. So we did breathalyzer and had to walk in a straight line. And I was sitting with one of the officers, and he was telling me that was the third time that week that had happened. Someone had gotten hit by a car. And then the next morning, it happened again. So fourth time that week, and that one the next morning was also fatal. So 2 fatal ones out of 4 for that one. Yeah, that was super difficult. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit to emphasize how real this is, and I think that's a testament to why there needs to be a change in terms of how we think of safety. It's happening all the time, not just car accidents hitting each other, but pedestrians. And I wanted to talk about pedestrians today only, but I realized looking at numbers how much accidents are just in general. So we're going to be talking about that today. So why is this happening so often? Frequent speeding on PCH combined with all these pedestrians crossing the street, go back and forth from the beach, you park across the street, go to the beach, and you run across, and there's no cars. That's usually when stuff goes wrong. And then also I found a pretty cool statistic that, not cool, but pretty interesting statistic that in April, just in the month of April, there were 300 speeding tickets given out in Laguna Beach on PCH. So that just shows you how much people just like kind of drive crazy on PCH. Um, yeah, like going way over the speed limit. So that's a pretty bad equation going across the street, flying down the road. And then also something to touch on a little bit is the increasing homeless population after the pandemic. Um, the weather here is obviously pretty mild, so many homeless people tend to kind of come down towards the beach because it's a little bit more sustainable. So we do tend to have more people on the streets at night when it's dark. And the man that was hit in our car was a homeless man on a skateboard from an accident. So yeah, so just like that's another thing contributing right now too. Like the homeless population is up 13% right now from 2019, and that's in the LA County. So that is also very much a contributing factor. So I want to talk about visualizing the changes that can be made and what can actually be done realistically, and also talk a little bit more what would be like the ideal solutions. So the first thing I want to talk about was crosswalks, and I know this sounds simple, but going back to my story one last time, there was a crosswalk like 50 feet away from where it happened. So that was like just I literally just like looked down the road and I saw a crosswalk. Like it was kind of like by McDonald's. If you guys know what it is. That PC just kind of down by there. So there's that pedestrian crossing thing. Um, so having more of those would obviously encourage people to go to the crosswalks instead of having to just jaywalk across PCH. Um, and then also bike lanes because we have a ton of bikers also that go down PCH. So I know like originally I wanted to bring a bike to campus so I could like bike down to the beach, and my mom was like, "No, you're not bringing a bike on campus. Like that is literally a death trap." So it's pretty sad that like that's just like a public opinion that my mom just knew like, "No, you're not bringing a bike." And then drivers are 30 to 40. This is just a general statistic, not specific to LA, but drivers are 30 to 40% more likely to yield and actually check where they're going if there's like a pedestrian crossing light. Um, that kind of makes them mindful of it. And then also, this is a little bit less realistic, honestly, but I think it's something that could definitely be a good change with lowering the speed limit. Um, this is a little quote I had that I took from an article from the Melbourne magazine that just talked about like how lowering the speed limit would reduce like the fatality of the accidents and like if you're going 5 miles an hour slower, that could be the difference between someone having a fatal and then having like a serious wound. So I think that would be really important. And then also like in this picture, more advanced speed limit signs, like this one tells you how fast you're going, and then it has a light that like flashes if you're going like more than 5 miles an hour with the speed limit. So I know they have a lot of those in the canyon, but I haven't seen any like down here on PCH. Um, and then California as a state in general saw an 87% increase in speeding from 2019 to 2020. So that was based on speeding tickets. So I believe it was monthly, there was like 1,000 something, like it was about 1,300 speeding tickets. And then the next year it was in the lower 2,000s. So it increased a lot. People are speeding a lot more. Okay, so the solution that I came up with, our policy, would be, well, this is my main takeaway, the PCH Extreme Data, we talked about that. So Paul Grisanti is the mayor of Malibu. So one thing we can do is we talk about reaching out to state legislators or the city council in this case, and asking them what they plan to do. There have been some talks about lowering the speed limit, but that's really difficult to do. So I know that they're mindful about it. So if the community came together and actually pushed for it, it would maybe encourage them to do it. If more people would kind of go in for it. And then also a petition to show to the Malibu City Council that the community can come together and care about this issue. The more signatures, obviously, the better because that shows the unity and the urgency of this issue. And the one idea I wanted to leave you with today, um, is that if you're going 5 miles an hour slower, what you